She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today. Oh my goodness.
So, welcome everyone to our 63rd episode.
Woo, woo,
Woo. We are in relationship month, winding it up in the month of love. And part of love is knowing when to let go, right?
Ooh, yeah.
So I brought this topic up because I really think it's important to talk about, some things, some of our love is for a reason. We've all heard this, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I was inspired by this book that I just love. It's called The Pivot Year. I'm holding it up at YouTube, but it's by Brianna Wiest, and she's the one who wrote The Mountain Is Us. But in it, she has on day 32, she has this little statement. You will have to learn how to outgrow some things you love. You will have to learn that some things are right for a time, but not forever. You will have to learn that moving on from them does not diminish the place they held within you, the importance they have to you, or the impact they had on you. And she goes on to say, you will have to learn how to let go of some things that are still beautiful because you know that they're not quite right, because you know that a deeper peace is waiting. And I just wanted to open up the discussion because I think we've all been to this place where, we've been in love with other people. We've had friends that we've let go. And I think a lot of us struggle with that. Like, I'm not a good person if I let that person go, or it has to really go sour before I let it go. And I just thought we'd talk about, should I stay or should I go now?
If I stay, there will be trouble.
Could be. Or it could be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. And also Penny is moving into some more coaching. And I think your what you're doing now and your experience could come to play in this discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa. Beautiful introduction to this whole episode today. Should I stay or should I go now? I have been training under Catherine Woodward Thomas for calling in the one and conscious uncoupling, because she called in her one true love and then it wasn't quite right. So they consciously uncoupled 10 years after they were married. And I was attracted to the work because of the pivotal process in the whole work. And that is to really determine what is I'm going to say it's either your false love story or your source fracture story, depending on which book you're in. And it's, there's so much great information in both of her books. And a lot of times in a relationship that may not be working out so well, you might determine that you're operating from a wound inside of you versus operating from your mature, wise self. And a lot of times when we get into conflict in a relationship or things don't seem to be jiving, it's because we've been triggered back to that by something the other person might have done. Like, gosh, when I was, not even when I was first, I still at sometimes, though it's getting better. I had some, my dad's drinking really bothered me and some of his behaviors really bothered me. And then I married my dad.
Not
Right?
literally.
Yeah.
No, not literally, but my husband. So
Thank gosh.
almost 33 years now. Oh, 32, almost 32 years. Anyway, I realized I was projecting some of the shit that I had towards my dad onto my husband.
Sure.
And it was really unfair. So I was definitely operating from that wounded space, all the wounds that I had from my childhood, or some of them. And I was treating my husband as if I was that wounded little girl. And I realized through all the work that I've done that that's not fair to my husband, first and foremost. And it showed me where I need to do my work to heal those wounds and to heal my source fracture story, to understand and go back and give that little girl some love that was missing at the time. And so for me, when I decide if I should stay or should I go, I mean, there's lots of things that come into play on when you're determining if this is a relationship that you want to continue to foster or if it's something that you want to let go of. And it takes some journaling. It takes maybe a coaching session with some, coaches or spiritual counselors to really dive in and just see what is really going on. Where are you operating from? And let's be honest, there are some people out there that may not be ideal to be in relationship with. And it's, cut the cord and move on. And then it might be something that I can change in myself or I need to heal in myself. And then, who knows what the relationship could evolve into if I up-level my life.
Right.
And so I don't know if any of that, what are you guys all thinking based on what I've been saying?
I love the discussion because to me, of all the things that's written in the course, the section on holy relationships and special relationships resonates with me the most. And I know through a lot of our discussions about, other things like finances, relationship with God and things like that, I feel so very confident in those areas that, that's probably not why I had to come do this earth thing again. It's probably the relationship stuff. I'm pretty certain at this point that's what's going on, right? The conflicting part, and I would love to hear from the rest of you as well, is, trying to take 100% accountability for what I am experiencing. And where does that end when it comes to a what the course calls a special love relationship, which may be different than the others. And so it's very conflicting for me at times because I can see myself, and like you, Penny, I can see some of my wounds and my triggers and where they come from, and I can reset and work on healing those. And at the same time, I can say I see my husband's triggers too, and I am not the one to coach him on working on those. And so whether he chooses to or not, is that the deciding factor? Then does it become, I'm walking in my truth now, and I'm not coming from a place of woundedness. Now can I see clearly to make the decision to go or to stay?
I love that, Drusilla.
But it sounds still almost like ego and personality. So I don't know. I
don't think it sounds like ego. I think it sounds like, when we change the way we look at things, sometimes the things we look at change, right? So when I change, things change. Everything changes, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question that was coming up for me while you were sharing that is, oh my gosh, now it's gone. Okay, Amanda, kicking it to you and it'll come back to me.
All right, Morgan. Thank you. So now I can't think of it either. So,
We're just blocking these tough
yeah,
subjects out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe we all just need to stop and breathe, take a couple of nice, deep cleansing breaths in
Yes.
and
Yeah.
out. Sometimes we stop breathing or consciously breathing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's just
Thank you.
come
That
back.
helped. I remember. That was just what I needed, Penny. I just wanted to go back to the episode at the beginning of the year when you were talking about self-love as your sort of guiding intention for the year. And so that's what this sounds like to me, is really focusing in on what does self-love look like for you. And as we know from A Course in Miracles, all love is self-love, and self-love has to include everyone in it. It has to include your husband in it, even if in the world of form, someone in the relationship ends up feeling hurt or feeling a sense of loss or a sense of pain or a sense of suffering on some level. We know that if we are making the most loving choice for ourselves, then it has to also be the most loving choice for the perceived other person. And so maybe there wasn't actually a question in there. That was just kind of what was coming to me as you were sharing about, it sounded like you're making self-loving choices, and it might have an impact on all of our relationships, when we do those things.
I agree. That's certainly what I feel. I feel that my commitment to self-love is creating an illusion of fracture, right? And instability, as it should, right? That's what I'm feeling. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to look at, I was moved by the reading of, it's okay to let something go that's beautiful, that feels, that just, I think we're so used to, getting just running it to the very end, like waiting till it gets really bad, waiting till you're not talking, you're not sleeping together, you're not, all of that. And I think this passage was saying it doesn't have to get to that place. Just like we're now seeing a lot of people that are consciously uncoupling, you don't have to get to a place where you're dragging each other through the mud. And you don't have to stand the very worst you can stand. Like when you're loving yourself, you can make the decision like, this doesn't feel right for me now, or I've outgrown this in a certain way, and it's time that I pivot, and I need to make those loving choices that are right below my feet, not these ones way out there, not letting it just get to the point where we're desecrating each other, but just like, okay, now what is my next loving step I can take? And I think that, bless you, Amanda, I think that, bless you.
Bless you again.
Thank you. That, I just think that we are very conditioned to not moving away, if that's our choice, when we start thinking this is not right for us. So it's
what do you think is behind that, Melissa?
Well, I do. We didn't talk about it yet, but when we were talking about this before the episode started, Penny read that passage about like, would you marry? It was from the 70s or something. Marry someone if they like checked all the husband boxes, but you weren't in love with them, and women would say yes. And I think it was for security. And I
Mhm.
think that somewhere we still have that holding on. Like
Well, it's
what?
the old paradigm. Definitely. It's still there.
And if I
It's
let
shifting
go,
though.
what will I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, um, doing the thing that is the most loving choice is uncomfortable for yourself, even if you know what needs to be done. So it can be very easy to just become complacent and to kind of settle into the status quo. And um, yeah, I mean, and I can really relate this to a friendship more so than a romantic relationship. I had a couple of friendships that sort of fell away in the past few years. And I know that old me would have really worked to repair the relationship. And it brought me back to that quote from A Course in Miracles that says, what you must learn, the question you must learn to ask over and over and over again in all situations is, what is it for? So in that situation, like, why would I be trying to repair that relationship when this person has um, disrespected me and hurt me over and over and over again and demonstrated to me that that's how they're going to show up for me? The reason that I would have done that from an unhealed place, it's still that like needing other people to understand me. And that's an egoic need. That's like, we are whole, perfect, and complete and understood by God. So we don't really need to seek for that outside of ourselves. But old me would have reached out to the person to explain how they had hurt my feelings and what they had done to hurt my feelings and how it had made me feel and all the ways that I felt misunderstood and not seen. And it would be for some external validation and a form of making sure they don't dislike me for some reason. Like I needed to control their perception of me. So it's all from a fear basis. So that one question, what is it for, got me through those like friendships falling away, because there would the thoughts would come in over and over again. You should really reach out to her. You should really send her an email. You should send her a letter. You should send her a text. You should make a phone call, and all these different thoughts. And then I would almost do it. And then I would come back to my spiritual practice and contemplate, like, why, what is the reason that I'm feeling like doing that? And it never felt clean. And so I just never did. And it's not to say that I won't one day be inspired to do that and it will be clean and it'll be from a place of pure love, no expectation, not needing that external validation. But yeah. So
that's so interesting you talk about that, Morgan, because way back in 1992, 1993, I had a relationship with a woman and it was a great relationship. We were friends. It wasn't a romantic relationship, but when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, like she just really irritated the hell out of me. And I thought she was trying to control me and stuff. And so I just cut the relationship. And I always said, it was fine. It was done with it. But recently, and now we're talking 30 years later, I'm thinking I want to look her up and I want to make some amends to her and just check in and see what is going on in her life, because I feel like I was operating from some, false love identity at that time, or just source fracture story. And it was not very kind. And so I love what you were saying, how then I probably would have said, what is it for? Because she is just trying to control me. But now what is it for? It's because I want to clean up. You said coming from a clean place, I want to just clean it up and live with no regrets. Yeah.
It's great. Amanda?
Yeah. I was just sitting here thinking about like times when I have let things go and times when I have not let things go. And what's coming up for me is that since there's no getting this lifetime wrong, right? There's no getting it wrong. We're all here to learn and to grow and to love. And if a relationship is not meant to be in my life, then I will start creating that drama, right? To like force it apart. I'll start creating situations that will make me feel more comfortable moving out of them. And so, like, thinking I don't want to be around this person because they whatever do too many drugs or they drink too much or whatever, like they are controlling, right? My I don't know I forget what you call it, Penny, the source fracture. Source, yeah. So when I can remember my dad and Sue, it, under my perception, it was all my dad's way. Like everything that we did was because my dad wanted to. And like there are, two sides, three sides to every story. So I didn't get into like what Sue wanted out of the relationship. But I saw that and I like mentally was like, no man is going to control me. I will not be controlled in that manner. So I can't think of anything super specific except this one boyfriend when I lived in Hilton Head for just a minute, right? Like he was working to control me on a very subtle level. And there was all kinds of angst and anxiety and being older and mature, looking backwards, like how time heals. I can see that it was control, right? It was control. And even when Mike, bless, right, when he starts to assert a lot of authority, like, we're doing stuff around the house. And if he says nope, like if he were just to go no, right, it really sets me off because it's, the control is coming up. So that's what I really buck against.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I always tell my young friends just starting off, I'm like, no means go in husband and wife language.
Say that one more time, Amanda.
In husband and wife speak, no means go.
No means go. God, I can't unpack that right now. Can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. So if my husband were to go, no, you can't buy that, I'm like,
oh.
I'll be right back with that.
Oh, so no. Okay, I get it.
Go, right?
Go. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've always said nobody's going to tell me no.
Right. No.
You tell me no, man, I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. So like whether to stay or to go, I'm so glad you're talking. We are talking about that source fracture because that's part of it, right? It's like looking at taking 100% responsibility. Where am I feeding into whatever's wrong with this relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where am I feeding into it? And if I recognize that and I work on that and heal that in myself, and then I'm not coming from that place anymore. And then from that, like, so since I have this fear of being dominated, right? So what am I doing to those people around me so I feel like the alpha, right? So am I putting them down in some manner? What am I doing to switch so I am in control? So like once I clean all that up and then look to see how it unravels, then that changes the story. And then I could start asking different questions, right? So it's not leaving from fear, right? It wouldn't be leaving from fear, right? Yeah. Because I'm leaving because he's not going to control me. You're right. Nobody is.
Exactly.
Nobody's the boss of me. You're not the boss of me. It's one of our favorite sayings. You're not the boss of me. I love that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the same sentiment I have. It's just different. Yeah. A different way of framing it, Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the place that you're operating from pure love, then it's not a question anymore. It wouldn't be a question anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was also reading something in the course that says once you invite the Holy Spirit into your marriage, your love, your special love relationship as a goal of making that relationship holy, that it is done. So, right. And that everything that happens in the meantime to disrupt old patterns is going to feel like your marriage or that relationship is falling apart. And that what typically happens is because it gets so dysfunctional and delusional that people tend to walk away and then they start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And we
And
shouldn't
I
leave
know
before the miracle happens, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people listening, it's probably going to make it more complicated because that's where it leaves me. You know, it's like, I know that's what's happening, but it just feels so, the feelings of dysfunctionality seem so strong that it's almost imaginable that the purpose that's intended for it is holy.
It's the old bait and switch.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
It's the old bait and
The
switch.
promises have been broken or something,
Well, you know,
right?
but I want to
And,
just
and I'm
jump in for
talking about promises from a spiritual perspective.
Oh,
not
yeah.
from-
You know,
Yeah,
I just wanted to
that's
jump in.
exactly what it feels like. And it feels more confusing than before, you know. So I would say I first had this moment of inviting the Holy Spirit into our marriage 3 years ago. And, you know, there were some moments, some times, some periods of time that I could see that the progression and I could see the holiness of it. And I would say this time period right now seems to be the most strained. So, you know, and it goes back maybe to what you described in one of the other relationship episodes, Penny, when you talked about the turbulence and how
Chuck
it
Yeager.
gets really, really bad just before it breaks.
Breakthrough, before breakthrough.
Before breakthrough. Yeah.
Yeah, not breakdown. Breakthrough.
You get that sound, but you hit the sound barrier, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, so that's the conflicting part for me is to, you know, just be still and know that it is done.
And how about another whole level of that is once you ask for your relationship to be holy, then it may be holy together and it may be holy separate.
Yeah.
So you can't control how that is going to end up. But if you're claiming, I want this in complete love and to be directed and controlled by a higher power, not by my old stories, not by our manipulation, not by me trying to hang on, not whatever it is. And so God or the universe may decide that's together and it may decide that that's apart.
It's going to be okay. And it's going to
will.
feel loving.
And it will be holy. It will be the right direction. Sorry, Penny.
Yeah. And tapping into that deeper, wiser self that knows that everything that's happening is okay. We are safe. We're protected. Everything is happening. And I know we've talked about this in another episode. It's happening for the highest and the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing, sorry, go ahead, Melissa.
I said what's Morgan's win-win-win.
The Holy Spirit's win-win-win.
Yes.
But Drusilla sharing about where you are right now and what you're experiencing really takes me back to when things were at their rockiest with my husband. And it was a pretty drawn out period that it was. And what had to happen for me is to get to a place of total surrender to either outcome. I was white knuckling. This relationship has to stay in its current form. We have to stay together as husband and wife. Like, that is the only outcome that I am okay with. I had to give all of that up and really get to a space where I truly, in my heart of hearts, knew that either outcome, any outcome, would be okay. I would always be okay. And whatever outcome would be perfect. There was an attachment a very strong attachment to the way the relationship had to look for me. And I had to come to my breaking point. I mean, it makes me think of that horrible story in the Old Testament where the guy has to bring his son to be slaughtered as a
Yes.
as like,
Abraham took Isaac,
Abraham,
wasn't
thank
it?
you.
Yeah.
I think I blocked it. But yeah, like I had to really come all the way up to the brink of slaughter, like really come to the space of like, okay, if this relationship is meant to end in its current form and take a new form, guess I'm okay with it. But I really had to be okay with it. And then when I was okay with it, like truly any outcome was okay. And from that, it is that sound barrier. And then it's like everything just slows down and settles down. And I could clearly see how to navigate from that point forward. And
Well, the key, I think, to all relationships is acceptance, right?
Yes.
Accepting what is and not trying to make it, there's a great saying that I've heard in the recovery rooms that my level of serenity is in direct proportion to my level of acceptance. And so when I'm not accepting, my serenity's gone. I've given it away to somebody else. But when I'm in acceptance, my serenity, just like you were saying, Morgan, it's just like, okay, I surrender. I'm going to let God run the show. Because a lot of times I think I'm in charge here. Oh my gosh. Letting go and letting God is important for me to remember over and over again.
Over and over and over and over.
When I surrendered our relationship to be a holy relationship, is maybe 9 or 10 years ago. Right. And like our whole lives upended. Yeah. Everything changed. Everything.
Okay. You got to give us a couple of things that changed that we weren't expecting.
I want to hear some more.
Yeah. So, we were living our lives, like, right, working all the time, in, back when I had a dry cleaning bill, right? That's what I like to say, right? And he was working. So we gave all of that up, and now we live, and moved across the country, let go of things that were no longer serving us. So that's what changed. Life went 180 degrees the other way. And I believe it's, that was when I'm like, this life is no longer serving me, right? It's time to change everything. And I don't know what would have happened if Mike wouldn't have been on board with it, right?
Oh, can we celebrate? Can you share your celebration that you shared with me and Angela earlier this week, your relationship win?
Yes. Okay. So I've just started listening to Allison Armstrong. And her, I listened, the first book I listened to, it's called The Queen's Code. And that's when treating, myself like a queen, and also treating my partner, my husband, as a king. And then, that's what I'm talking about, like my awareness, like I am putting him down in really subtle ways. Like, I'm not honoring myself by not asking for what I want. Right. Like, like all these kind of things. So working on our relationship, and the win that Morgan is referring to is I listened to this book called Celebrating Partnerships. It's from Alison Armstrong. And I asked my husband if he wanted to do it with me. And he said, yes. And so he listened to it, and their workbook comes with it, or I ordered the workbook separately. And we're going through the workbook together. And it's just,
but he initiated it, right?
And he did. He was, yes.
Wow.
You know, like once we listened to it, he's like, when are we going to start working on the workbook together? So it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And it all started, you know, when I asked him, the first thing that I asked him to participate in, I've never asked him to participate in any of my spiritual journey. From the very beginning, he was a hard no. He's like, I'm riding on your karma coattails. We're going to see where this goes, right? Totally fine with me. I'll do all the work. Because that's, you know, I mean, I'm accepting the spiritual work for every human being on the planet, right? That's, you know, it's my husband. Okay. Right. So, so the first thing that I asked him to do, one of her little classes, was appreciation. So I asked him, you know, I'm like, tomorrow afternoon, can we work on some of this appreciation worksheet? And I set up an appointment. I set a time, just like a class. We sat down and we filled it out. And it was about like how a bunch of different things, but it boils down to, how do you express appreciation? What's hard to express an appreciation? And also, how do you like to receive appreciation? And so we filled these out and we had a discussion about it. It was super duper enlightening, right? There's no trade secret that, you know, my husband has a hard time like verbally expressing appreciation. And one of my favorite ways to receive appreciation is to tell me, you know? So it was just
words of affirmation.
Yeah. So, and so that kind of opened the door. And then we started really, you know, actively appreciating each other.
Mm.
And that was the first thing. And then so working on a relationship in a different manner, a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. So,
wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, what a powerful, powerful episode this has been.
Yeah.
It was really diving deep into, should we stay or should we go? And all that goes along with that. I'm feeling that this session, yes, this has been a therapy session for me, a coaching session, a counseling session. Yeah. This session is coming to a close now. We are at time. But first, I wanted to share just a couple of Post-its. Like, the question is, what is this for? From A Course in Miracles that Morgan talked about. I love that. If we can pause and ask ourselves that, versus going into all the meaning that we're making about stuff that may not even be true. And I loved it, Amanda, when you said that there's no getting this lifetime wrong. Mm-hmm. A lot of times as human beings, we're like so critical on ourselves and the steps that we're going through and how the world is going to end and we're going to die. And just pause and take a breath. Mm-hmm. And just there's no getting it wrong, really, if we can just really allow God to come in and guide us. So with that, that's a wrap for episode 63 on relationships. It's been just a powerful session with you all and a podcast. And I just want to thank all the listeners for being here with us and tuning in every week. You can, of course, share any comments on in Facebook or at our website or in any of the podcasts platforms that you may listen to us on. We're also on YouTube. Anyway, so we just really appreciate you being here, and we're always looking for other ideas for what our listeners want to hear in a podcast from Us five wise women. The 5 lemons laughing, I mean.
Yes.
So you can reach us at 5 lemons laughing. That's 5 spelled out, FIV, lemonslaughing.com. And you can catch all of our podcasts. Like I said, this was episode 63, and we'll be back next week with episode 64. Thanks, everyone, for being here today.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.